today's parlance, we would actually say that it is a mixture of multiple rare earths.
Which would totally excite Donald Trump and
and China and everywhere.
his history is rarely white and black.
So you're saying he was a good guy?
I'm not saying that.
So he's doing all the side dealings, and guess who's not very happy with all of this? Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru.
And Corey, as per not Corey, Corey.
Really rubbing in the Malayalam tonight.
Weren't you saying that his nose was also chopped off?
This is very lovely.
But he had a lovely nose.
Influential. There we go again. Shobha and the noses.
His Travancore's existence would not be very different from when it existed as part of the British India. Hello and welcome. This is the Rearview and I'm Shobhana K. Nair.
And I'm Jacob Koshi.
We are recording this on the Onam weekend and Jacob here has just finished a bag of banana chips without sharing with anyone in the office.
I just can't keep myself away from banana chips, Shobhana.
Yeah.
And I've been stuffing myself thanks to your generous offices. But banana chips has a connection because we are talking about Onam banana chips and the land of Onam and banana chips, which is Kerala.
Yes.
But we're not going to be talking entirely about Kerala, just that part of South Kerala that was once the princely state of Travancore. And it turns out, Shobhana, as I'd let you finish that story.
So, for 45 days, State of Travancore, which is 7,662 square miles big, held out against multiple pressures. From June 11th, when the Dewan of Travancore, Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Aiyar, declared to the world that, much like Hyderabad and a couple of other states, State of Travancore will also remain independent, which means that it will not join either India or Pakistan.
So this is all in the build-up, those months of 1947 when India was just about
that is
to be independent.
Yes, that is one period I would love to time travel to as a reporter because it was chaotic. There was so much happening. There were claims, there was counterclaims, there were bombastic rhetoric.
And as you say, some wanted to be independent countries.
Yes. The question is, how did Travancore hold out for those 45 days? What did Travancore have as the bargaining chip, which sort of fueled its ambition?
And that is that very intriguing mineral called monazite. It's a mix of several compounds, elements, and nearly all of them radioactive. In today's parlance, we would actually say that it is a mixture of multiple rare earths. Now, rare earths is something that is all over the news.
Which would totally excite Donald Trump and
China and everywhere. And China, because they seem to have a kind of monopoly on its production. And it is so central to the production of EVs and complicated magnets that power nearly every electronic device that we use. But that was not its original potential that time. The monazite sands of Kerala, black sands, I'm sure you probably would have seen pictures of it or encountered it. It is something that is so common to the average Malayali imagination. But that time, the real allure of the monazite sands was because of the proportion of thorium, a material that can be used potentially, and this potentially is the big underlying factor here, potentially in nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
And in those heady days of 1947, it's only been 2 years since the World War has ceased.
The
finally,
one
with
big bomb stopped.
The one bomb that ended
big
everything.
War, yeah.
And when the world really saw the power of nuclear, atomic energy and nuclear power explosions. And this was like the big valuable thing to have. And India's scientific leaders, who were pondering over the future of independent India, they realized that harnessing nuclear power was critical to the then emerging India's uh, fortunes. Yeah, because the whole idea was India, which so far had been energy starved, if it could harness nuclear power, we would probably have unlimited supply of electricity, and that was a very very utopian ideal, and that is what really motivated Homi Bhabha to be extremely adamant that these Kerala's monazite reserves should stay within India. But clearly, there were other people who saw the potential of this monazite and thorium and
Yes.
had other plans.
So, thorium or monazite actually, monazite was first discovered in 1908 by German chemist C.W. Stromberg in, Kerala beaches. And as far as 1911, Kerala had been mining monazite. It had, in fact, the first mining lease for monazite was granted to London Cosmopolitan Mining Company, which actually, notwithstanding its name, had was actually controlled by German
So, what are they
interests.
mining this monazite for? It's quite a
They,
tongue twister, I must say.
they were mining the monazite to manufacture gas mantles.
Oh,
Yeah, which is
you mean like those lanterns?
yes, so chemically powered lights.
Yeah.
This is before the era of electric lights, and mantle at that time composed of thorium nitrate and other salts. And
In
when
fact, it was even quite popular. I mean, even India's first Nobel laureate, Sir C.V. Raman, he had a pretty successful business for a while making these mantles, and he actually so it was a valuable commodity. And this was again India, where electricity still wasn't ubiquitous.
across the world, in fact, the production of monazite rose steadily until the end of First World War, when the market just rapidly crashed. And
So it was mostly in the processing or extraction of these particular elements within them that is, that is the valuable aspects. And most of this processing sometimes happened abroad, I believe in the United States. So India, princely states, already had this culture of mining and getting them processed some externally and then using it into a product.
exactly, and which was the pet peeve of Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Aiyar, the Dewan of Travancore.
He's a very interesting man. I mean, modern Kerala history seems to suggest that he's the one person who's universally reviled by the plebeian masses, at least.
Yes, that is at least the mainstream thought. But if you were to look sort of more closely at the history, history is rarely white and black.
Yeah.
It's
So you're saying he was a good guy.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are a lot of shades, different hues existed within this one man, because and we will come to him, but before that we need to finish with the monazite. After the First World War, when electricity became a regular in regular use, the use of monazite for this incandescent lamps just crashed. So it was no longer in demand, as much in demand as it was earlier. And since you asked about C.P. Ramaswamy Aiyar, he is obviously a man who invites varied emotion.
He was not even a Malayali.
He was not a Malayali. He was born on 13th November 1869 to an Aiyar family in Tamil Nadu. He did his schooling in Madras, and he graduated with a gold medal from Madras Law College. And in 1920, he was appointed Advocate General of Madras, the youngest ever to take that position. And he has also served in Central Legislative Assembly, Viceroy's Executive Council. In fact, his family's association with the British went far back. His grandfather had worked in the East India Company. He was
So he was part of the posh elite,
for
like
a
in
very long time. I mean, he was the
upper crust.
crust.
And crusty at that. Which
And
made him the crusty person that he's known to be.
yes, So he took over as the Dewan of Travancore only in 1936.
And that's pretty much the most powerful position in, it's like being the prime, it's the prime minister of a state, right?
Yes,
Equivalent.
but in case of Travancore, he was a little more than that because he was running the state practically on his own, and he wielded really extraordinary
It was
powers.
almost like as if the king was like the equivalent of a present day president, and he was the prime
Yes,
minister.
yes, absolutely. And Sir CP, as we shall now call
Oh, he
him,
was knighted too.
yes, Sir CP, is also responsible for a lot of industrial
He was a
development
big one
of
for
the
that.
state. He had established the first fertilizer plant in India, fertilizer chemicals of Travancore, uh, which is also called by the name of FACT.
FACT.
And Travancore Plywood Industry Factory, Travancore Rayons Limited, and the first plant to manufacture aluminium cables. And he's also responsible for temple entry of Dalits,
Okay.
bringing in that thing. So he's
So
actually
there was a
very weird mix of progressiveness, Western progressiveness, but at the same time, he was very conservative. He just disliked the leading Congress leaders. He was a monarchist.
including even the communist
Oh, he
parties
he yes, he had a special place.
of
Dark
malice
place in his
reserved for them.
reserved for them. So obviously he was a very complicated person.
So he seems to be a very industrially minded and progressive sort, at least economically. So why wouldn't he want Kerala to be part of this fledgling union of states called India? It stands to, it's a win-win, right, for all?
I'm not sure whether it is a win-win for all. And obviously, Sir CP had his reasons. One, Kerala was economically viable as an independent state, and in fact, he argued that if a country like Belgium and Thailand could exist as a free state, a free country, then why couldn't Kerala exist in a
I
similar?
guess similar to many arguments by, for example, the Hyderabad state
Yes,
of.
Hyderabad was even richer, but Kerala had an annual revenue of 9.5 crores. And he also, what is more important is that he expected, because we are talking about a time when the world is discussing thorium. The whole reason why we are doing this episode, Jacob, is also because I was reading Mission with Mountbatten, which is a first hand account of the events leading to the partition of India.
Such racy, pulsating books you read, Shobna, in your spare time.
No, this one is written by the press attache to Mountbatten. So obviously, it is written from a certain vantage point. Alan Campbell Johnson.
Here we are, the rest of us just watching aimless shows on Netflix, and you're reaching the racy memoirs of.
So
Campbell.
there was a very short paragraph, which I would just quickly read it out. The question arose of Travancore, which is in the far south and the only Indian state with a sizable seaboard. Uranium deposits have been found there, so the lapse of paramountcy now assumes new strategic significance.
There's that word, uranium.
Exactly. So what Sir CP thought is that not just state of Travancore is a fairly progressive state. It had a good share of it earned enough revenue. It had what the world was looking for: uranium.
So, uranium is the precious fissile material that can be used to sustain the chain reactions in a nuclear reactor. But thorium per se is not fissile. You actually need to. It is a sort of breeder chemical. So the plan is that if you use uranium 235, and with that you can convert uranium into other forms of uranium that then can be used to make thorium a fissile material. It's also a plus that thorium is fairly abundant. It is not as reactive and not as radioactively dangerous as uranium is. But it is still, it's so that is what, that is when this whole idea of a three-step process, that is, we begin with our limited uranium deposits in India, and eventually we be able to use all of that thorium. So that is what really animated the Indian atomic energy establishment
Yeah,
of.
and that is exactly what animated Sir CP also, because in 1945, just after the atomic bombs were dropped by US in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, he wrote a letter. In a letter to the Maharaja of Travancore, he wrote, "If thorium can fuel at atomic bombs, Travancore will enjoy a position very high in the world." And you just explained why and how.
So he was somebody who saw the potential of this. In fact, in 1945, he'd banned exports of monazite, and this frustrated firms like Lindsay Lighting, which relied on Travancore's 3,000 tons of monazite annually. He was also negotiating with the British, and he secured a deal in 1947 to supply 9,000 tons of monazite over 3 years for processing plant. So he's doing all the side dealings, and guess who's not very happy with all of this? Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. Because again, Nehru, Bhabha, as we have gone into so much detail into that previous episode on Homi Bhabha, they were friends, and Bhabha had a very strong influence on impressing upon Nehru the need for energy independence and the role of atomic energy.
Not just the British, Sir CP is dealing with the big brother, US. US had been hunting around the grounds as far back as 1944.
And their interest primarily was less about material, but more about, they did not really want nuclear technology to spread
To fall
outside.
into
They
any
wanted to
weapon.
control the supplies of all of these fissionable materials like
Yes.
uranium, thorium, and anything.
In fact, they posted Andrew Corey, a geologist attached to the Foreign Economic Administration in New Delhi, to keep a close eye on the mineral related developments across India. And Corey, as per, not Corey, Corey,
Really rubbing in the Malayalam tonight.
conducted surveys in Travancore, state of Travancore, and he did sort of give credible information to US about the quality of the materials available here. And the other important thing is, as far back as early as 1944, United States was aware that Travancore harbored the visions of independence, and therefore this looked like a good excuse to use this as a to strike a deal with the Dewan of Travancore to get monazite and other material.
And I think Nehru really, at some point, lost it when, the government of Travancore announced the appointment of Khan Bahadur Abdul Karim Sahib, who was a former Inspector General of Police, as the representative of Travancore to the Dominion of Pakistan to take charge of duties when paramountcy lapsed.
Yes, and you know why he was doing all that? Let's just go back to June 3rd, 1947, and a very important day in India's history, because it is on this day that Mountbatten declares to the country that we are dividing it into two parts, India and Pakistan. So, in the evening, Lord Mountbatten, accompanied by Jawaharlal Nehru and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, go to All India Radio headquarters in Delhi, All India Radio headquarters at Parliament Street, and all three, one by one, give an address, deliver an address, informing the country about the partition and what it will entail, and what are the things that they are going to do about it. So 2 days later, Hyderabad announces that it will stay independent. On June 11th, um, roughly what, 8 days later, 8 days after this announcement, Travancore, Dewan of Travancore, Sir CP, says that Travancore will stay independent. So sending that agent, appointing that representative to Pakistan, and all of that is actually his way of asserting that we are not with
Either.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was obviously quite frustrating for Nehru. He said things like, he wouldn't hesitate starving Travancore, and he threatened them with economic reprisals. He even said that he wouldn't hesitate to launch air raids upon Travancore. Really not the rose carrying, white clad Nehru that we're all so familiar
You cannot,
with.
you need a few thorns along with the roses.
Absolutely. And I guess this all kind of shook Ramaswamy a bit. I mean, this must have worried him a bit, right?
More than that, Jacob, I think Ramaswamy had other things. Back in his own backyard,
Well, he didn't have his own army.
he did have forces, and in his own backyard there was the leftist movement getting stronger by the day.
Yeah.
And if he hated the congressman, he hated the left even more, and they hated him with equal passion.
And I guess all of these culminated in those very fateful events of 27 July
Yes. So on 27 July, instead of going
of the same year.
of 1947, Jacob, 1947 is crucial. We are only talking about this year for now. He, instead of going to Delhi to attend the meeting with Lord Mountbatten, he stayed back. The excuse he had given was that he had to attend the birth centenary celebration of the great composer King Swati Sri Chitra Tirunal. And just when he was leaving for the concert,
He was an enthusiast for
was.
classical music
he
and
was
those concerts.
attacked, and by what we believe was a bunch of communist leaders, activists,
And now it's confirmed. I mean, it is. I mean, even the current, the communist, the LDF parties in Kerala are, recount this very proudly as part of their founding history.
Yes, and the wounds were really deep.
He was stabbed several times.
He
apparently.
was stabbed several times,
And I believe I read somewhere that he say it or somebody said that he only survived because he had mastered techniques of breath control. Though I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Weren't you saying that his nose was also chopped off or something?
Yes, but I believe that was part. There was this.
Or are you mixing your stories?
No,
here?
I'm not mixing up story. There's this very lovely,
But he had a lovely nose.
influential. There we go again. Chopin and noses. There was this very influential and very interesting Malayalam movie called Lal Salam, which lots of people have seen. So in that there is this very famous scene where
Yeah.
He's slashed by.
His nose is slashed. I'm looking at his photographs, and I'm very strong nose, one must say. But any which way, before I appear as an apologist
For the nose.
for the noses, and so he was, for many.
He almost died.
He almost died. For many hours, he hung between life and death. And what is more interesting is all his rhetoric is punctured by this one attack. And what I really cannot wrap my head around is the fact that when he said that Travancore is economically viable, he spoke about he saw the virtue in using thorium as a bargaining chip, but how he collapsed. I mean, how
So when somebody chopped off my nose and I was stabbed and bleeding to death, I would really consider my.
Agreed, but how
future.
easily he gave up. But of course, parallelly there was VP Menon, Lord Mountbatten, everybody, and lest we forget the great Sardar Patel. They were all working on him, and basically the idea served to him was that his Travancore's existence would not be very different from when it existed as part of the British India, because only three subjects, in fact, VP Menon's pitch to all the states was simple, that your life as under the British rule and under the government of India's rule won't be drastically different, because just like the British, we are going to take away your decision making powers only in three sectors, which is communications, defense, and external affairs. So, which kind of obviously Sir CP was already veering towards, he was cozying up to the idea, and now after the attack, he had more reason to give up. So on July 30th, 1947, Travancore signed the instrument of accession and formally joined with the Union of India. That brings us to the end of the story of Travancore. But Monazite still continues to live on.
Very much. It is still, at least in official parlance, it is still sold as this great answer to India's nuclear needs. And to me, in fact, it's also very interesting that it was because of this whole, concern that India had regarding the control of its rare earth minerals, of potentially radioactive materials, etc., and its importance in nuclear program, that the Atomic Energy Commission itself adopted this whole philosophy of secrecy. I mean, Homi Bhabha impressed upon Nehru that these are precisely the reasons why atomic energy needs to be controlled very independently of politicians and other bureaucrats, because it is a strategic asset. So his whole plan, and this was of course part of the larger pitch regarding nuclear power, that by 1980 India would have like 20,000 or 30,000 megawatts of nuclear power. But fact is that today we are nowhere near, even we're just about near what we should have had in probably in the 1980s. It is still only less than a few percent, less than 10% or 8% of India's overall power installations, and that's because thorium did not turn out to be that magic.
It did not live up to its promise.
Yeah,
it was a damn squib.
It was a.
Could we say that
it's
was a damn
it's
squib?
not yet a damn squib, because at least if you're looking at it specifically only from it as a nuclear fissile material, yes, because.
And again, you would want to add the caveat that till now, yes.
Till now, yes. Because number one, they also found several more, much more monazite reserves in other parts of the world, the United States particularly. So there was less clamor, particularly for Indian monazite.
So this rare earth wasn't rare enough.
Yeah. And it was rare. Rare is a very, it's actually a misleading term. It is rare as in not in terms of quantity. It is just that it is difficult to extract it from the larger mineral complex that it is concerned.
So you think we cannot use our monazite card to sort of come in this existing US-China war on rare earths? Can we use monazite as a bargaining chip?
Well, not monazite per se, but given that there is going to be a lot more demand for rare earth materials. I mean, there's an entire family of metals that are elements that are associated with it, and right now, because we have got so many more electric cars and we need these metals for making all these magnets, there is still a very compelling reason. In fact, India is really sprucing up on its critical minerals approaches of harnessing as much resources as possible. So the more we are able to process it and separate out all of its other materials from monazite, it still remains a very valuable resource. And now India has gone on to the second stage of its nuclear breeding program, of actually being able to by testing out fast breeder reactors. If that goes on, and with I guess newer emerging technologies, it could still be the case that thorium and monazite might still have its moment under the proverbial sun.
Yes. So that's all we have for this weekend, and do watch us and do share, subscribe, and do talk about us to your friends. We would really love that.
Thank you, Shobna. It was a very explosive and intriguing discussion that we had on monazite and Kerala and Indian independence. Thank you for watching. I am Jacob Koshi.
I am Shobna K. Nair. Till we meet again, it's goodbye.